All right, everyone. Vandana has joined us. We're still waiting for Angela Miles, but we're going to begin our session today. I would like to welcome you all to the Maternal Gift Economy Breaking Through series, our Salon number 50, celebrating this wonderful making peace with the earth through diversity, mutuality, nonviolence, and care, an Ecofeminist Manifesto, something we absolutely need at this very moment in time. We're hosted by the International Feminists for the Gift Economy. I'm Letecia Layson, your moderator. We are very pleased to have Vandana Shiva with us again today. She's joining us from India. She will introduce the manifesto. Also today, we have Angela Dolmetsch joining us from Colombia, Angela Miles joining us from Canada, Karina Kylo from Finland, and Maria Suarez from Colombia. These four women, Angela D, Angela M, Kaarina, and Maria, traveled to India and joined with a group of women that Vandana brought together in India in March of this year. So the outcome of that and the shaping of that you'll actually see in the manifesto. Today's session is being recorded and will be available for viewing on our website, maternalgifteconomymovement.org, where all of our salons, our conferences, and special events are noted and recorded, so you can view those at our website as well. Okay, I'm just going to give you a little bit of a flow. We're going to start by actually having a video that is about 10 minutes long that will give you an idea of the process in which this whole manifesto came about. Then I'll introduce Vandana, who will be our featured speaker. And after Vandana speaks, Jen will just, whatever comes up in her head, will have a comment, and then I'll briefly introduce Angela Dolmetsch, Angela Miles, Karina Kylo, and Maria Suarez, who have all been with us very recently. So you have their bios, and Diane will make sure that their full bios will be at our website. So Diane, if you're ready, would you please bring up the video for us?
Diversity is the expression of nature in her freedom. Diversity is the expression of society and cultures in their freedom. For 500 years, the colonizing instinct has dominated. It has assumed that women are inert, passive objects to be owned, manipulated, violated. It has assumed nature is dead, just raw material to be exploited. These separations and hierarchies are constructs of a petty mind. And this division is the root of the ecological crisis, it's the root of social conflicts, it's the root of wars. And peace comes from recognition that we are interconnected.
औरतें आई हैं तो उनके मिलने से भी हमें अच्छा लगा है आज कि देखो कितनी सारी हम सबसे मिल रहे हैं। कहाँ है अकेले बैठे रहते जंगल में जैसे गांव में।
We do have a problem of extinction of biodiversity, which is perhaps even more dangerous than climate change. Women are usually caring for biodiversity because they are nurturing their families. They have more of a maternal feeling in caring. This is why we have here women from all 5 continents talking about different ways of looking after biodiversity.
Extinction begins by trying to push to extinction the power of regeneration that is in the seed. All the initiatives of creating seeds that do not renew, seeds that are intellectual property, seeds that are genetically modified, is an extinction process. Hope is reclaiming the power of the seed to give us seed.
नवधान्य से जुड़े हैं तो कुछ उन्होंने भी जानकारी दी और ये हमारी परंपरा पहले से ही है। हमारे दादी नानी लोग ये सब पहले से ही बीज रखते थे।
कोई लोग सब्जी के बीज बचत करते हैं, कोई लोग जैसे अनाज के बीज बचत करते हैं, कोई दलहन के बीज करते हैं। इस तरह से हम लोग अदली बदली भी करते हैं।
Questa condivisione delle sementi è qualcosa di fondamentale. Sicuramente non è attraverso una selezione genetica di pochissime varietà che riusciremo a sfamare il mondo, per cui da questo mantenimento, da questa selezione collettiva e da questa condivisione delle varietà e delle specie più adatte ai diversi climi nascerà un futuro sostenibile dell'agricoltura.
कहे कि जैविक आप हमें भी बचा रही हो, क्योंकि बीमारियां ज़्यादा फैल रही हैं रासायनिक से। डायबिटीज हो रही, शुगर हो रही, जो उनने कही इतनी बीपी लो हो गई, हाई हो गई, तो ये दवाइयाँ डर रही खा रहे हैं इनको, तो इससे बहुत ज़्यादा बीमारियां फैल रही हैं। तो इससे अपने खान पान पे बहुत सा परिवर्तन आया है हम लोगों को। तो जब से भी डॉक्टर के पास बहुत कम जाते हैं।
We cannot continue with the neoliberal thinking. We really need to reshape the discourse about health, the interconnection and the entanglement between health, food, biodiversity, environment, if we want to actually, have a future on this planet. We will die, the planet will continue to live. And that is an unsurmountable challenge that we have to realistically face.
We are all trying to save our future from destruction, and we want to have the future generation take on biodiversity more and more in their hands and not let the corporations take over our lives.
Surrounded by the hopelessness of destructive power of greed, we are planting gardens of hope. Hope is not a commodity we buy. Hope is cultivated. Hope is cultivated with our love, our care, our belonging, our relationships, our becoming one with the earth, making peace with the earth.
As humans, we have moved away from this universal pattern of nature, and the gathering that we've had here over the past few days is a celebration of that universal pattern.
It's the very idea of not being separated from nature, because we are nature. And if we truly and deeply comprehend this, I think all the true solutions for the ecological crisis will come.
Our beautiful Mother Earth is so diverse in her climates, in her geographies, in her plants, in her animals, and cultures that work in harmony with the earth and her diversity, create cultural diversity. Cultural diversity and biological diversity go hand in hand.
Yo vengo de México. En México hemos dado una lucha muy fuerte por la defensa del maíz. El maíz está muy presente en nuestra cultura. De hecho, nosotros decimos que somos hombres y mujeres de maíz. Como lo dijo el Popol Vuh, estamos hechos de maíz. Por eso hemos luchado para que no se siembre maíz transgénico en México.
Vamos a cambiar la historia de Costa Rica, como muchas otras formas en que la gente en el mundo, al asumir su propia responsabilidad de lo que está todavía oculto e invisible, está logrando hacer.
Creemos que ese verdaderamente puede ser el futuro de la humanidad, que las mujeres se reúnan, que sean las que manejen sus destinos y que siembren su propia comida, y que sean ellas las que deciden lo que sus hijos coman y lo que el mundo coma y cómo se alimenta el mundo.
We don't want a fast solution. It has to be something that comes out of patience, and whatever I've seen today is about patience, because these women farmers who come from all over India are extremely patient. They plant their seeds, they watch them, they select them, they swap them, and the weather in India is pretty tough. And they are tough women.
ये हमारा काम है, और जैविक विविधता को बचाए रखना, जैविक खेती को बचाना और पारंपरिक बीज को बचाना, किसानों का मानसिकता को बदलना, अपने आप को बदलना और देश को बदलना ये हमारी एक सपना है।
This is what we call on decision makers and policy makers. Remove your blinkers of the monoculture of the mind. Remove your arrogance of superiority, of racial superiority, of patriarchal superiority, of anthropocentric superiority, of domination over nature. See how life in diversity, co-organizing in freedom, is a more productive economy, a more caring economy, an economy that ensures that no one is left out from the celebration of life.
I've been in the European Parliament for almost 4 years now, and I've tried to bring together a whole range of members of the European Parliament, of MEPs, who would like to fight for this recognition of ecocide. Ecocide touch upon the gravest crimes against the ecosystem.
We need to use all that is available to us so that we can build our activism across the world.
Remembering who we are and our incredible role as generators of life.
We are part of nature. We should learn from nature.
You should make pressure on the world and on the policymakers that these kind of systems can prevail and thrive.
If we look at a maternal gift economy, what we can see is that the whole of the market economy is parasitical.
The gift economy is a different economic worldview before patriarchy, where you respond to needs instead of creating artificial needs.
Save your seeds and save your culture.
Connect with your farmer and understand where your food comes from.
La vida depende en el planeta de las semillas nativas de cada lugar.
I believe good things can be done and good things are being done. Perhaps we should speak more about it.
हमको तो लगा कि पुरुष प्रधान जो देश है, हमको यहाँ आए तो हमको लगा कि कानून में भले ही न रहे, लेकिन अब हमको लग रहा है कि महिला प्रधान देश है और यहाँ आके हम बहुत खुश हुए और लगा कि महिला जो है वो क्या नहीं कर सकती है.
Now is the time to see the amazing creative work being done by women across the world. Now is the time to listen to them. Now is the time to let women lead the way.
That was so beautiful. Well, I'm just going to do a brief introduction to Vandana. That video gives us an idea of the women who were there and the gathering that took place. But Dr. Vandana Shiva is going to tell us much more. She is a trained physicist who did her PhD in the subject of hidden variables and non-locality in quantum physics. She moved on from that to actually do her work in a much more interdisciplinary research in science, technology, environmental policy, which she carried out in the Indian Institute of Science and Indian Institute of Management in Bangalore. She's here today, though, really to focus on the work of the organization that she founded in 1991, Navdanya, a national movement to protect the diversity and integrity of living resources, especially native seeds, and the promotion of organic farming and fair trade. I want to just hand the mic over to her, and she can tell us more about what this work is and the importance of this manifesto and why she's actually rallying us around the world to join her in this movement. Welcome, Vandana.
Thank you so much, Letecia, and hello, Jen, and all dear friends who have gathered. Yes, it was a very joyful reunion at the Navdanya Biodiversity Farm, and you got glimpses of it. Why did I start Navdanya? I started Navdanya to protect the seeds. Yeah. I started saving seeds after I attended a meeting where the chemical industry said now they were going to do genetic engineering in order to own the seed through patenting and using a global trade treaty, the GATT, which became the WTO. And Monsanto literally wrote the agreement on trade-related intellectual property rights. So they said by the year 2000, all seed would be GMO, all seeds would be in their hands. It would be illegal for farmers to save seeds because of this intellectual property law. And I had watched biodiversity disappear in India with the Green Revolution. We had evolved 200,000 varieties of rice in Navdanya, in our different seed banks. We've created 150 community seed banks because reclaiming the commons is part of the gift economy. And in these 150 community seed banks, we've saved about 4,000 varieties of rice. Right now at the farm, we have just prepared the nurseries for planting 750 kinds of rice varieties. And then the next season, we plant 250 kinds of wheat varieties. But every kind of pulse and legume, every kind of oilseed that will grow in our region. So seed saving is the basic work of Navdanya. But of course, seed gives you food. And as communities started to save seeds, of course, they could only do it through organic farming because all the market seeds are bred for chemicals. They do well if they get the chemicals, they do very badly if they don't get the chemicals. So organic farming was very important for saving seeds. And we overcame the conservation production divide. You know, just like nature is not separate from humans, as so many of the interviews in the film mentioned, conservation is the foundation of production. The gift economy is the foundation of all the visible, calculated economic transactions. And this has been Jen's big work in life on the gift economy. So if the Green Revolution itself had driven out so much diversity, reduced 250 crop species to one crop in one season in Punjab and rice in one season, wheat in the other, I said, if 4 companies have all the seeds of the world, they're going to push more monocultures because chemicals need GMO monocultures. GMOs are monocultures: corn, canola, cotton, soya. That's it. Look at the crops that are spreading everywhere. Look at what's spreading in Argentina, Brazil, the Midwest. This is it. Go to Europe, canola, corn, not GMO corn, not GMO canola, but they're desperately trying to break through. So we knew we had to save seeds, both for the freedom of the seed and the freedom of the farmers, but also for food freedom. Because if we didn't have diversity, we wouldn't have real food. And of course, when I go to the villages, it was fascinating, you know, usually up in the mountains where I come from, men will be sitting at a shop, smoking and playing cards. And I'd ask them, and I'd carry books from my parents' library about all the crops of their time and ask them, do you grow these? I said, not at all. We grow soya bean, we grow potato, we grow only cash crops. So I'd go on to the village where the women were still farming. And then I asked them, do you grow all this? Of course we do. We grow the millets, we grow all these vegetables. And I'd say, keep saving the seeds. So it was so clear. For the men, only the market existed. Even the crops in their own home that was feeding them, they didn't notice it. And my studies on monoculture of eucalyptus in the forest, the Green Revolution in Punjab, had led me to see that there's a block in the mind, which I call the monoculture of the mind, that is not able to see diversity. And the monoculture of greed is not able to see the gift economy. So these are the two things we have to make visible. But how did diverse women for diversity grow? Those of us who have been working on GMOs and biosafety, as well as WTO, we would go to the international negotiations. I'd been part of the Convention on Biological Diversity and the Protocol on Biosafety. And there was a handful of us who would go to these meetings. And there was a certain day when none of the male scientists were there. And we asked ourselves, what happened? And we realized, they were all heads of departments, they were deans, and the pressure had been put on the university to not talk the ecology of impact of genetic engineering. They had all been silenced and not allowed to come. But we were women who were all on the margins. The scientists too were on the margins of their departments. The May Wans Ho, the Elaine Inghams. And we would come to these negotiations. And one day sitting around, I just said, oh, we're diverse women for diversity. We were defending diversity. And we were all diverse from different parts. Then we formulated our first declaration. But I want to share with you a letter that was sent by two of my colleagues when we founded. Both of them are quite old and couldn't travel in March. And Beth Burrows and Christine von Weizsäcker. But they're wonderful. When I was in Germany last, they traveled all the way. They said we couldn't come to India, but we have to meet. And just the formation of Diverse Women for Diversity, I want to share with you. So this is a letter from our co-founders. Dear diverse women, many years ago at the early meeting of the Convention on Biological Diversity, Canadian journalist Holly Dressel and Canadian scientist David Suzuki noticed that those who were there fighting for biodiversity were, in Holly's word, Africa, because Africans were very strong, and a thin line of women. Most who stood in that thin line of women would later be the initial members of the Diverse Women for Diversity. So at one level, we were formed to counter the big trade treaty and the free trade and globalization and defend the biodiversity work. But the second part is also beautiful. They go on to say, long ago in Greece, in what was then the city-state of Athens, men were required to take an oath of citizenship. In that patriarchal time, women were not required to. Perhaps it was because the women were already doing what the earth wanted. It was because women were not as preoccupied with fighting the tribal wars of Athens as they were mourning the victims. Here is the Athenian oath. We have altered it, replacing the word city with the word earth. To us, the improved oath is thus transformed into a joyful promise from Diverse Women for Diversity. We will never bring disgrace to our mother earth by any act of dishonesty or cowardice. We will fight for the ideals and sacred things of the earth, both alone and with many. We will revere and obey the earth laws. We will do our best to cite a like reverence and respect for those who may be prone to annul them or set them naught. We will strive unceasingly to quicken the public sense. Thus, in these ways, we will transmit this earth, not less, but greater and more beautiful than was transmitted to us. That's from Beth and Christine. And as so much that really grows is a gift economy. I think true movements are gift economy. Diverse Women of Diversity is a gift economy. The gift economy network of feminists is a gift economy. We give to each other. And this manifesto is a product of a gift economy. People came from all over. You saw many of them. Our women farmers came from all over India. And you could see the joy they were feeling. I don't know if the translation in text was coming to you, but the last one was saying, they call this a patriarchal society. Sitting here, we realize it's run by women and we are the leaders of shaping the new world. If you go to the manifesto, you'll see all the women who contributed to this. And that process itself was a gift process. Even before getting together, we wrote to everyone, and we wrote to Jen, we wrote to everyone and say, we want to bring out this manifesto. And I knew who does what, and I asked them to do a para or two paras on whatever was their area of dedication. And that was then sewn together when we met by making groups on the different sections of what the manifesto would become. It evolved totally like nature evolves. It evolved in symbiosis. The chapters of the manifesto, I'm not going to go through too much of it because it's available to you in the chat box. The first is Planet Earth, One Earth Family, United in Diversity, Love and Care. The second is Ecofeminist Epistemology. I think this is a big, big breakthrough because the mechanistic reductionist epistemology, that's capitalist patriarchy's foundation, which also makes the gift economy invisible. The ecofeminist epistemology is learning from nature's laws of life. And let me just at least read out the key principles. Nature's laws, diversity, not monocultures. Synchronicity. Synchronicity because that's how nature works. That actually, if you think of it in life, all the time there's non-locality. That was my PhD thesis. That all the time, distant things, because everything is connected, is constantly acting together through what we call quantum coherence. They're trying to make machines on the basis of quantum coherence, but life already works with quantum coherence. Symbiosis, togetherness. As Rachel Carson said, we are not alone, nothing lives alone. Creativity, nature's creative, women are creative. In fact, capitalist patriarchy assumption is nature is dead, women are dead and passive, and they have no economy. No, we are creative, and our economy is the foundational economy. Homeostasis, when there's disturbance coming back to stability, equilibrium, the law of circularity, nature does not work in linear extraction. Fractals, that in everything is the pattern of everything else in evolution. And chapter 3 is biodiversity and the web of life. Chapter 4 is health of the earth and human health are interconnected. Biodiversity, food, and climate change. The ecofeminist, chapter 5 is ecofeminist economics of giving and care. And that's where the gift economy and the economy of care are the basic foundation. And then all this for making peace with the earth, because for us, the ecological crisis is a result of a war against the earth. A war against the earth with direct militarism, but a war against the earth also through greed, violating limits, using tools of war. I mean, my work on agriculture is all based on resisting tools of war that came out of Hitler's Germany with I.G. Farben and their American partners. That's what the fertilizers, pesticides are all about. Herbicides used as Agent Orange in the Vietnam War. In agriculture particularly, war against the earth is the serious crisis. And then, of course, there's a long section of call to action that also grew out of the gathering of diverse women for diversity. So please do read the manifesto. And for those who want to join the movement, you can either write to me or you can write to Navdanya International. I'm sure their email is in the manifesto. If it's not, write to me and I'll forward it to them. So all grow in what I call ever-expanding circles of love and compassion and start becoming stronger than these ascending pyramids of power that want to annihilate all life on earth, including large parts of human life. So we are getting together at a very unpredictable moment of the future of the earth. Everyone talks about collapse, but to have hope in the moment of collapse, that's why we planted the Garden of Women. And let me just tell you one little other thing. So we had this process of drafting a manifesto, but women farmers had come, they had a whole seed celebration, seed exchange. We planted a Garden of Hope. And because India's first freedom movement was based on bread, because the British would just kill people if they talked of revolution. The land had been taken away from the peasants, people were starving. So people learned how to spread the movement by sharing bread. They give bread to each other. If I accepted the bread, I'm part of the movement. And that's how the 1857 revolt was organized, through bread. And the East India Company was thrown out. The first corporation created to rule the world was thrown out through a movement of bread. And after that, the East India Company, of course, had to give way to the British Crown. That was the end of the East India Company. And for us, that's a big lesson. So if you notice, the women were making their bread, different kinds of bread, and all the other women had brought their breads from the different parts. So our bread is our freedom. Our seeds are our freedom. Our growing food is our freedom. Our gifts are our freedom. I'm so happy to join you.
Thank you so much, Vandana. Jen, would you like to just respond?
Well, I'm just so happy that you're here with us and that I can hear you speak personally about this wonderful event that you created and the wonderful manifesto that came out of it. And I'm so sorry I wasn't there with you. I wish I had the courage to take that long trip.
We'd have taken very good care of you, Jen.
Yes.
Oh, another element of it was, we added things. And if you notice towards the end of the film, everyone's got color, because our festival of Holi fell during those days. So the women made their own colors and then played Holi. And that's part of the film, yeah.
So that's just wonderful. And I think it's really inspiring to hear about this garden of hope. And we are all trying to plant that ourselves in our various ways, in spite of all of the negativity that's around. And I believe we'll make it somehow. I'm not quite sure how it's going to happen, but if we keep on doing what we're trying to do, and all the women keep on trying to make the difference, it will happen. And I think that women hold the key. It's just that internationally diverse women hold the key. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. So let's actually hear a little bit from the women in our network who were able to attend. And let's start with Angela Dolmetsch, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you very much. There are two Angelas. And, at that time, maybe it was very fashionable to have that name. So that is why they call me Angela D and not Angela M. First of all, thank you very much, Vandana. It was a wonderful experience for everybody. It was a wonderful experience for me to be able to meet all these women, to participate in this meeting, in this wonderful environment, to learn, to see the Earth University, all of this that women have done, that the women of India have done to be part of that. And thinking about it, the gift economy, suddenly it clicked. Eureka! I found the solution. So please show me the Diana, show me the picture I sent to you. Can you lower it a bit? Lower it a little bit. Okay. So I start by saying where we are now. We are now in the ethic of justice, which is what Carol Gilligan said, to each according to his capacity. That means the patriarchal society, exchange economy, economy of greed, industrial agriculture, monoculture, patriarchal capitalism, and war. Carol Gilligan also talked about the ethic of care. What is the ethic of care? To each according to her needs. Matriarchal society, gift economy, economy of care, agroecology and biodiversity, matriarchal eco-village and peace. On the side of the ethic of care, we have the matriarchal family. On the side of the ethic of justice, we have the nuclear family. And I think suddenly it clicked to me that we, in these two movements, we have what the future of the world should be. And then we should probably, it should be this big movement that would change the world and start working towards a world of peace with all the women together working for the same, towards peace, with the movements that we can build together. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Angela. That was beautiful. Karina, would you like to unmute?
Thank you. Vandana, thank you so much for that occasion. What is so memorable about it is that for having for years written theoretically about the gift economy and your theory and having taught this, here I actually experienced the gift in a very concrete, wonderful way. I wrote a few things that came to my mind when I was going through the manifesto, and I was trying to seize the most important aspects of what we are doing and what should be done in the world, apart from all the wonderful things that you said and that Genevieve represents. So I'll read it out. What the world needs the most, quite apart from the obvious restructuring of dysfunctional economics and the overturning of patriarchal capitalism, is collective and individual healing. Healing from an ecocidal and pathological worldview. We should all say, following the example of alcoholics, my name is XX, and I am recovering from the planet-destroying capitalist patriarchy. Maybe that's how we should all start our seminars. Western science, like the natural sciences, have been dangerous forces colonizing our minds, while some native people still manage to retain and cherish the sustainability and abundance of nature because they don't imagine being outside of it and because they are nature. In Finnish, we don't go to the woods to pick berries. We have an expression that means we are in the berry. And so I realized that in our language, we are part of nature when we do different things in the woods. So to destroy the woods, the berry patches and the commons is to destroy ourselves. The abstractions and the detached, dissociated language as part of the world's dominant jargon of development and competitiveness promotes the separation from nature that is a root cause of the current ecological crisis. The gift economy of old Europe and of indigenous cultures served to guarantee the sustainable relationship with nature because it was and is part of interspecies feedback, because the circulation of gifts restored balance and renewed the life force. Validating the gift is a kind of decentralized cohesiveness that emerges. I think that Western women and assimilated indigenous people also have to learn to throw off the master identity embedded in the Western construction of the human. And indeed, we should incorporate, become agents of what Genevieve calls homodonans, the giving human. Because the gift is an agent of social cohesion, and this again leads to the feeling that its passage increases its worth, for in social life, at least, the whole really is greater than the sum of its parts. It brings the group together. The gift increases in worth immediately upon its first circulation. And then, like a faithful lover, it continues to grow through constancy. Whereas interest, it circulates as well, but it only accumulates wealth to the few. And if you are a gifted person, it means that you have gifts to give away. The earth now needs our collective gifts of care, responsibility, and courageous activism. The extreme right, which is now rising up also in Finland, wants to reintroduce hatred and racism. And in their wake, this can only lead to ecocide. It needs healing, radical healing, and it takes all of us to help resist and reform this major threat to civilization and all of nature. Thank you, Vandana, and thank you, Genevieve.
Thank you, Karina. Now, first, I want to just welcome Angela Miles. I'm glad that you could join us. And let's go to Maria. We'll let Angela sort of settle in a little bit. And Maria, are you ready? You have some words you want to share with us. I know you've had a very busy time.
Hello, everybody. It's really great to be here and to listen to Vandana again. And also to Genevieve and all of the participants that went with us to India. For me personally, I have to start by saying that I had traveled the world around for 25 years doing feminist international radio endeavor and the movement of the 90s, the beginning of the new century, erupting into the international agenda, bringing it back home to our lives and so on. And then I retired and I moved to a little corner of the world, which is the Southern Caribbean or Costa Rica, where I now live. And I had not traveled, but to go to Puerto Rico to see my family once a year for 15 years. And all of a sudden, Vandana invited us, and the Gift Economy Network, it made it possible also to go to India. Traveling after traveling in the middle of the war in Ukraine, traveling in the context of the post-pandemic, and traveling in an area in my country that is put under a lot of pressure by the corporate tourism corporations in a place that is very special. You can read about it somewhere else. Deciding to go to India was quite an endeavor, but I didn't even blink an eye to do that. First of all, I have to say that it was amazing after so many years of having traveled before and not moving from this community for 15 years, going to meet with 25 women from around the world and also 150 from India, and with Vandana in her farm was quite an amazing expectation. I had been in farms before when I was doing fire, but this was a location that was very special. As Vandana said, when she talked about it, and I will address that afterwards. But before I want to explain that this experience really changed my life in ways that I still have not been able to factor in fully, in the sense that the holistic approach to our coming together, I said to Vandana when I saw her, I don't know if you remember, I said, how do you expect us in 2 or 3 days to come up with a manifesto? 25 women, some of us knew each other in many different walks of life, and some didn't. And then all the women from India. And very soon after the first meeting, I realized that it was not only going to be possible, but it was going to be revolutionary, because the whole program was, as Vandana explained, and the video also, the whole program was about cooking together, eating together, planting together, dancing together, singing together, talking, crying, laughing, and revisiting our lives in that context. And that to me is so precious that I go back to it all the time. You saw in the video, the expressions of the Garden of Hope with all of that diverse women. We also brought our seeds. We brought water from our country and we put it together, and the energy that emanated from that little round space of the Garden of Hope that we created with everything that we brought from all over is still with us. And I say us because we are still together. I still communicate with many, many of the women who were there. And I cherish that a lot because when we come together with everything that we do in life, is when we bring back the clan dimension of women coming together. So what I would like to do, because you already talked about the main issues of the manifesto, is to maybe leave you with 3 or 4 metaphors that are the ones that I am still factoring in my life, that Vandana talked about and that we talked about and constructed in that experience. The first metaphor about the seed and our lives as women is the metaphor that Vandana talked about, that the nature and task of her farm, and she said that it was the regeneration of the life of the seed. And the connection and the metaphor that I make is that women coming together to heal ourselves and to contribute to heal the planet, wherever we are, whether it's 1, 2, 3, 10 millions, anywhere in the world, are the social and political farm of regeneration of our human species in this planet to be able to survive and to thrive together with the rest of the planet. We are the farm when we come together. That's the first metaphor of the relationship between the seed and the women. The second metaphor that I would like to leave you with is that Vandana also talked, and we all talked in that conference, about how the regeneration of the seed is the emblematic task of the protection of the biodiversity in light of the extinction by the corporate and industrial and patriarchal and capitalist and neoliberal and whatever, everything we called it in the video and in the conference. And the metaphor that I want to leave you with is that the extinction of women's ancestral power is what can be associated with the extinction of that biodiversity and of the diversity of our human family as part of the planet. And it has not been able to happen. And every time we come together and we recognize our power, I don't know if you remember, Vandana, but I did an interview with you about, could you explain what? Yes, thank you.
And you gave me a beautiful scarf.
Oh, yes, Tonaina was there with me. But I asked you about the creation of the relationship between the ocean and the land in your country, and you gave me the foundational story of Shiva, which I would like, if we have time, to give you 5 minutes to tell it yourself. I don't want to tell it, but I want to say that that led me to affirm that when we recognize women's ancestral power and don't relinquish it, but associate it with the biodiversity, then we are the regeneration of the seed in the human species that could bring about the change that we need. Some of you talked about it, but I want to leave you with the metaphor. The last one is the universal pattern of life in the planet, which, as you explained and we talked about in the declaration, is the commons in our planet. And that is the fractal of the universal gift economy. We, as women, are the fractals of the universal pattern when we challenge privatization, exchange, violence, monoculture, and the predatory practices of colonization. I want to leave you with those 3 metaphors because they are what I brought back with me in an interaction that has stayed with me and that is coming back every single day in everything that we are doing here in Costa Rica right now, which is also very hard because, as I said to you, it is a part of the planet, a little corner in the planet that between ocean and marine coastal land has resisted for 400 years of presence that we know, many more from other species, has resisted the trends. And now all that power is coming on us, and it's challenging all of us to be able to come together with the strengths of the ancestry of the Afro-Caribbean people that are the founders of this coastal land, of the Bribri and the Cabecar that are the founders of Costa Rica and of the Talamanca area, and all of the 59 different nationalities that have come to live here with us, challenging us to be able to come together as the human family to link with all of the other species and beings that are here to be able to challenge that. I invite you to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Angela M. Angela Miles, welcome. I need you to unmute, and would you like to offer some insights or?
I'm devastated to just be popping in at this point. I'm on all fronts. I don't really feel it. Just I was really looking forward to this and to hearing Vandana and all of your reflections, but to just launch in, please, anyway, I'm sure I've missed a lot more than you have, not being here from the beginning. I want to say I'm so glad to have heard Maria and brought that all back for us, and in such a rich way. I want to add that we did wonderful dancing there at Maria's insistence and so on, and the spirit that Maria and so many women brought. It was a magnificent honor, if you want to say, and rejuvenation to be there in this space that has been built with so much knowledge and care and love, to meet women who are so active and also knowledgeable and loving, and who work so hard together, honoring each other and being able to see the world clearly, and more clearly because of the connections, and see the possibilities, build the hope. And it's a wonderful, wonderful space. The physical, the groundedness, the connections to the earth, to history, to the future, and really, really open eyes in terms of where we are. And a lot of joy, tremendous amount of learning, and very, very important for me was to see, in some ways, to see a network, but that isn't really a word that's strong enough. To see a world of, it's not just, the word isn't even resistance, but to see that we, in a way, for me, how can I say, the real significance of, for me, in terms of, was I have been a part of organizing, feminist work, anti-racist, anti-capitalist work, always grounded in alternatives and in vision and in affirming what the deepest human and most feminist values of life. And that movement, in a way, that voice, that profile, for me, of a movement has been, it's been fragile in terms of the voice, the loud voice, the presence with speaking. I mean that the neoliberal, the disintegration or the thinning of our social fabric of any government capacities, the complete financialization and concentration of wealth. And I felt the shifting of the dominant discourse, which has been patriarchal, class, colonial, racist for very, very, very many years. But the extreme end game of where we see ourselves ending up when there's been a denial from the beginning of our separation from indigenous, maternal, framed and built communities, to see where it takes us and what it means. And this is something that I think to be in a context with a purpose and an intention and collective power to frame that and to with a commitment to move with it. It's not, it isn't that I was surprised to see it, but it was wonderful to, I think the Gift Economy Network is a network of those kinds of connections, of practices, feminist informed practices that are visionary and that are deeply, deeply critical among women and some others who are active in every sphere. There aren't many of those. Today, it's mainly NGOs of doing good work in specific areas, but we had in Diverse Women for Diversity and at Navdanya, there were the feminists in all those locations who were committed to and were making that powerful voice for a very, very different world and different understanding. And I know I've been excited to be reading you, Vandana, and hearing you every chance I got. And every time you spoke, I really learned something new, really deep new. And that's fantastic. And when you move through the world, it seems to me you take a perspective with you that is so true and so deeply visionary. And you just speak from that place in a way that whether the context, whether it's a feminist context or a scientist context or whatever context, you don't speak to the dominant frame. You speak from the different frame. And at the end of the talk, there's not even any discussion because it's so obvious. If you're standing in a different place, if you're standing in the place that that is captured in the manifesto, there's no discussion. There is a path. There's a way of being. There's a way to move, and then there is all these things that have been structuring our world and have been the lens. I mean, they've been the frame through which everything is seen and discussed, and they're absurd, absolutely absurd. That shattering of or refusing of the emperor's clothes. I mean, you know, just seeing that there are no clothes there, and that space, that capacity is very, very exciting, really exciting, and the deep the diversity of nature, diversity of women, the relationships among those, and the connection. For me, the connection in gift is exciting in itself, but to see such diversity and such engagement in this very, 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 very special Navdanya. I really, you know, Maria talked about some of the things that struck her and things he used. And for me, a really, really deep epiphany. I could, the sense of the social and the spiritual, the economic and the cultural spiritual, that is, those are, I know those are inseparable. I know all the divisions that have been made and been constructed by patriarchy and class and colonialism, these inventions of a separate economic sphere and a separate educational sphere and separate spirit. It's a terrible, terrible damage that, you know, patriarchy and all the various forms of patriarchy have done to us as human beings and in terms of life. That it's not new. It's not new to me that those are constructs, and very limiting and controlling constructs, those separate areas and separate spheres. But the fact, seeing that the gift relations we're born into and we're shaped by are the ways, the reason we have Mother Nature really is because we were mothered when we were born, and we were born into those relations, and we have seen and constructed and lived and had in our pre-patriarchal, in our, as we developed in maternal relations, we made those relations, and we saw those relations, and we have lived those relationships and sustained our planet through that. And that, and it struck me very, very so strongly in that context, where spiritual, deep spiritual commitment in many different spiritual traditions and ways.
2 minutes, Angela.
Am I talking too long?
You have 2 minutes.
Oh, thanks. I'll summarize it. Well, the connection, the way, the spiritual concerns and the economic concerns are absolutely inseparable. There's no way that there's two fronts on this. It is, and in that manifesto, that's all the way through that the manifesto, in ways that are really important. I'm sorry, I came late and then I made a monopoly, but I'm devastated. I'm so glad. I hope this is being taped and I can go and hear the rest. Thank you, Diane.
Yes, Angela, all of our salons are recorded and can be viewed. So that's great. And we're glad that you could join us. And I want to just check in with Vandana and see if you had any other things that you wanted to say before we opened it up to questions that were inspired by the women who spoke in.
Yeah, no, I don't have much to say, and it's late. And my office is in my old mother's cow shed, and people wait to lock it up. So after that, I go home, and I've got people awake. It's nearly 11 for us. So in 5 minutes, I'd like to leave. And if there are any questions, yeah, I'd be grateful. I have nothing more to add.
Okay, great. So Jen, do you have any questions for Vandana before she leaves in 5 minutes, or anything you'd like to say? You need to unmute. There you go.
Well, yes, we need to all connect and work together, because this is a moment of such impending doom, really. And I'm just wondering, and I wrote it in the chat, if we can create these fractals and then try to make them correspond in some ways in order to make a united effort towards a different paradigm that will bring us into another way of thinking, different values, and be convincing also to the other people who are going to be afraid of what's going to happen, because it is happening.
Yeah, I think at one level, the process of the diverse women gathering and the manifesto is in a way a fractal for movement building in times of despair. Yeah, I think that was a big part of it. And the way the presentation laid out how the patriarchal system and the feminist system, to each according to their need, organizing much more, not because someone has resources, and not organizing because there are no resources, but bringing it together in a gift. I think that process is what the world is lacking. There's so many NGOs now not able to do a serious thing, either about the food system or the climate issue. And I remember on one of your salons, Jen, there was an indigenous woman who talked about food, and talked about the sacredness of food and killing the bison and then sharing it as community. And at this point, I don't know if you've seen some of my writings, but there's this new slogan of farming without farmers, food without farms, basically totally artificial synthetic food. And given that seed and food is where women have really sustained the gift economy and humanity, in a way, this is capitalist patriarchy's ultimate assault on the earth and women's economy, gift economy. It would be wonderful if, at a future salon, you could bring together women from the different indigenous cultures that are part of the gift network, and we could talk. You can choose the theme, but it could be the gift of food, called Annadan in our language, the gift of food, and the difference between the economy that's based on food as a gift and food as sacred versus food as property, commodity, speculation, etc. Because I think that piece would say a lot to the world that the capitalist patriarchs want to make. With all their narrow, how would I call them? People who take a piece and run with it, thinking they're doing good. Like, there's a dear friend of mine, an environmentalist, who just wrote a piece. They're promoting fake food, getting rid of food and farmers to save the planet. John Kerry has said that recently, that you can either have food or climate. So these dualism has been put out so fast. I think if the gift network could bring together a reflection on food, not so many people work on seed, but so many people work on food from the different cultures. And you could actually then produce a book too. You know, we could even produce a little video of interviews somehow, you know. But we could do it digitally first and then see an opportunity when we could actually get to it. But that would be taking the fractal of how diverse women worked and bringing it to the most burning issue of our time, how food is being hijacked, redefined, and basically made to disappear.
That's wonderful. That would be great. Let's do that.
Yeah, wonderful.
All right, good.
Yes, wonderful. And Vandana, before you leave, because I know that you want to go to sleep and have your cowshed locked up, will there be other gatherings with the Diverse Women for Diversity that women might be able to sort of participate in or explore with them?
Yeah, I mean, the big gathering we kind of do when in 2 or 3 years, you know, when it becomes possible, it looks like it's possible. So we'll keep you updated. And someone wanted my email. I put my email in the chat box, vandana@vandanashiva.com. And do join the Diverse Women Network and the Gift Economy Network and Diverse Women Network are one. You know, it was such an important part, Jen, you and the whole network's contributions to the manifesto. So they're not separate. I think when we talk about the principle of symbiosis rather than competition, you know, that is a fractal too. And we can do something really if during late this year or early next year, we can do something really good on the future of food, looking at the past of food and from across different cultures. It would be really, really important.
We'll do it in November. Is that all right?
Yes, that's good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Well, you heard it here, friends. We have a nice collaboration that was just done, witnessed before our eyes. So that is very exciting. And Vandana, thank you so much for being with us. We appreciate having you anytime that you are able to. So we know that you said yes to Jen for November. So we'll see you at the end of the year. Yes.
But what I will send Jen to you is, dates when I won't be available.
Okay.
So the other dates you can choose.
All right. Wonderful.
Wonderful. Big hug to everyone.
Hug to
Bye-bye.
you. Thank you. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Vandana. Wonderful. All right. So with that, Jen, did you have anything else that you wanted to say, or the other women, Angela M, Angela D, Karina, or Maria, before we open up for questions? Yes, Angela D, unmute.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that we are on the same line with Vandana. Definitely, we should make one movement together. What she talks about food, I could see it in India and I could see it in Colombia, where we had huge hectares planted with sugarcane, and that's not food. I mean, sugar at this moment is not supposed to be consumed all that much. It's bad for you. So we are not producing food. We are producing sugar. And in India, it's the same. Was very, very big hectares of land producing sugar. And we do that the same here. So I think it would be very interesting to have a conversation on food. And just about us working together, I think it's the time that we women in all the different movements work together. And in a way, this sort of a graphic that I show, it was sort of moving from capitalism to put together the gift economy, ecofeminism, women for diversity, and put together, and then we can march together. And I just remind you one thing: women are very good at marching, but somebody told me, and I think it was probably Angela Miles sometimes told me, that the worst thing that can happen when women march is that in the way they all decide to want to go to the toilet, to the loo. So they all go together to the loo, and they leave the match. So we just have to go together and continue together. And I think together we managed to change the world. And that is what we should try to do, because all the different inputs from women are all working on the same way. We're really working towards the gift economy, towards the ethic of care, towards the women leadership, women matriarchal families. That is where we are working.
Thanks, Angela Dolmetsch. Karina, you do have your hand up, so I'm going to call on you. Are you ready? There you go.
Yes, I just wanted to add that I have translated the manifesto into Finnish, at least parts of it, and I'm circulating that. So I think that something like this is very important for us to do now, so that our work and all the thinking that we did for many weeks doesn't go wasted. And you know, I'm using the internet also to talk about the example of old Europe, the fact that we have had 3,000 years of peace and an old European system based on egalitarian living and the gift economy. So I think it's very important to circulate as much information like that as possible, because people need alternatives so desperately now. So that's just one activism that we can all easily adopt, or probably we have all adopted it anyway.
Thank you, Karina. Maria, you have your hand up. So before we open up, we'll hear from Maria.
I just want to say that I translated the summary of the manifesto into Spanish, and you can access it in www.escribana.org in Spanish, because I also think it's very important to distribute it. And I've only been able to do the synthesis because the manifesto is very long, but it's a very good synthesis that Vandana did herself and the network. And that I also heard Vandana and the other women who presented the manifesto in Rome just when it came out in June, and also a conference that the Brazilian women who were there organized in the Commission of Environment in Brazil, so that women who are listening to this presentation and are interested, don't wait until there's organization of a next meeting, but you can organize it yourself and invite Vandana or any of the 25 women that were there that are willing, more than willing, to talk about it and to participate with you. And the last thing that I want to say before opening to the public is that I believe that it's really critical that we look into the connection that is being made here, and that I have suggested also in another meeting that we went to in New York, which was about the waters of the ocean, the Association for Women and Mythology, that I believe that we should amalgamate a strong connection between the network that Vandana is organizing, Diverse Women for Diversity, about the one about the gift economy, which is also ours, also the indigenous women of the world that are very organized, and also the women of the Association of Mythology. And the ocean in that case was the conference, because I think that the four fractals, if they come together, it's going to be really powerful. Thank you. And they're coming together here. And
Thanks, Maria. All right. So I think it's time. If you have questions, please do enter them into the chat for any of the women who are on the panel. And if you have a question that you want Vandana to answer, she did leave you her email address, so you could send it to her. And let me just check in with Liliana to see if she has a question, and then I'll go to Judith for another question. So Liliana.
Yes, there's a question in the Q&A by anonymous attendee. I really don't think this person understands the gift economy, or they wouldn't ask this question, but I'm going to ask it, so maybe you guys can explain it to them. This is the question: how we ensure that the gift economy is truly unconditional? I can ask it again. How we ensure that the gift economy is truly unconditional?
Unconditional.
Unconditional.
Unconditional. Jen, would you like to be the person who responds first, or?
Yes, I can do that. Well, the gift economy directs the giver towards the needs of the receiver. And so if those needs are being addressed, then it is a gift. But if the giver has in the back of her mind an exchange, if she really wants to get something for herself out of that gift, it's not unilateral. And we have to use our intuition on this, because basically we live in a society that's all based on exchange. And only underneath you see all the gifts that are being given, and so often are being ripped off. So mothers and children, generally in the beginning, it has to be unilateral, because babies can't give you back in exchange for what they've gotten. And I believe it's in that early childhood where the unilateral gift becomes the structure of our lives and our perception, of our thinking, all of that. And then later, when exchange comes into the picture for the children, which is around 3 years old or later, the gift gets contradicted by the logic of exchange, by the quid pro quo. And so we have a mixture all the time. And so you have to be able to put the quid pro quo aside, realize what it is, and then do the unilateral gifting. And criticize the quid pro quo, especially in things that, like NGOs that are supposed to be helping people, that instead are really the vanguard of the market, that are going in there to grab various things through those gifts that they've given to make let's say gain the confidence of the people, and then they get other things from them, like other minerals or other kinds of commercial goods. Anyway, that is more or less, I think, an answer. You all have something else to say?
Yes. Would anyone else on the panel like to make a comment or respond to that question? Or do you think Jen was sufficient?
Can I comment just briefly?
Yes, Angela M. And then I'll go to Maria.
Yeah, for me, gift by definition is a relationship where someone is responding to a need and someone is receiving the gift. It's just a direct relationship. And by definition, that has to be, by definition, both have to be involved in it and not coerced. It's nothing, gift economy isn't something that could ever be created by rules that are external. Obviously, it's not that you wouldn't have any social structure, but it wouldn't be, we have something now like economy, and we have a whole series of relationships that are essential and are not optional at all. But a real gift economy that we want to be moving toward would be, by definition, a product of the decisions and choices of everybody involved. which isn't to avoid the idea that there's any problems with getting to a gift economy, but the idea that it might be imposed by rules. With an exchange economy, we can have rules that try to make things less parasitical and less wasteful and destructive. We can try and control them by rules, but you can't, a gift economy in itself isn't made by in that same way as a separate sphere. I don't know if that in that sense. It's like it's not really an economy, it's a relationships among people in human context that we've managed to build that are really around our needs and our mutual resources and humanity. So
thanks, Angela. Okay, Maria Suarez.
No, I think it's a good question. I don't think we can answer it very simply. I mean, I appreciate the affirmation about the essence of the gift economy, because it's so important for us to keep reminding each other what it's all about, because it's the economic system that nature works in to be able to perpetuate rich life. But the exchange economy is so perverse and so globalized that it also tries to kidnap the very essence of the gift economy if we let ourselves be impacted by it. So I always, in my life, I always keep track of why I do things, in the sense that I have to be very careful, both about the way in which I give and the way that I receive. In Mano Vuelta is what it is called in the Bribri and Capekar cosmovision. Mano Vuelta is sometimes you need and you put your hand like this, and sometimes you need and you put your hand like this, and sometimes you have to receive, because we all and life goes on with a basic gift economy, because that is nature's way, and we, especially women, not exclusively, but we have it in us because we are the ones that are the bearers of the continuity of our species and all of the species. I already talked about that in the three metaphors, but I always keep track because we also have to decolonize our own minds, as somebody was saying earlier, to understand that sometimes we give and we're not aware that we want something back, and it's so it's not explicit, and the gift is not then recognized as a gift, and we have to keep track of ourselves, because the exchange economy has permeated almost everything, and we are the keepers in the human species. We are the keepers of the economy of the natural world that we have made ours in the way we organize our societies and our personal life. So when we give, we have to give. And if we want everything back, don't call it gift and say what you want back. Or if not, just give it and take the consequences. I'm very pragmatic about that.
Thanks, Maria. I want to just make clear that if you, Google gift economy, there are many different definitions of the gift economy, but what we represent here is a very specific type of economy that Jen has identified. And when you're talking about the maternal gift economy, it is unilateral and it is unconditional. Other definitions use words that confuse. So they will use gift exchange, and right away that that is not really a unilateral gift. There's a this for that. It's not a turn taking, but Genevieve has her hand up, and I want to just allow her to speak a little more to this conversation. But I think the key for me was always, if I see someone or hear someone talking about an exchange where somebody gives me a gift and I want to give a gift, do I give a gift back? give a gift back. That's really exchange mentality, even though you're using the word gift. So that's a little key. Okay, Jen.
I just wanted to say it is an economy. It's not helpful to identify exchange in the market with economy and not see that all of the other nurturing, provisioning, satisfying needs that goes on is also an economy. It is the basic economy that the exchange economy takes advantage of. And so we need to call it economy, even though in fact it does create positive human relations. And that's, you know, where those relations come from is that unilateral care of one for the other and satisfying the needs. And so, yeah, I mean, and they, you know, the basis of the word economy is care of the home in ancient Greek. I know everybody says that, but it is important, let's say, that it corresponds to what the gift economy is and not to what the exchange economy is. There.
So there. Thank you, Jen.
You're welcome.
Okay. I want to thank the anonymous questioner because I think that is at the heart of and the important question of why you choose to come here is to learn the distinction between what the maternal gift economy is and other gift economies. Because the way that Jen poses the maternal gift economy as a theory is it is at the foundation, the economic foundation of what it means to be human. And that human relationship, which Angela Miles always refers to, originates, and the economy emerges from that primary relationship of mother to child. So I want to thank you for whoever you are, the anonymous questioner, for bringing up that very deep and important question. So Judith, do you have a question for us, perhaps?
I have a comment and then a question. The comment is, we've heard about a translation into Finnish and we've heard about a translation into Spanish. If anybody else who's listening to this knows of any other translations into different languages, could you put it into the chat and we can make sure that everybody hears about them and put in a link so that we can access your work in whatever language you are comfortable with. And just to go back to the issue of fractals, which Maria brought up, and Jane talks about Vandana's comment that you look around and realize that women are running things, and wonders if a form of snowballing, one way to snowball the fractals is to call attention to examples of where new or old, bringing back old paradigms are already in existence, and how we can look at examples of what people are doing as a form of fractal. And that's not really a question, but just if anybody wants to talk more about fractals in this context.
Well, there is a direct question that just popped in the chat, which is the very last entry was asking the question, what is a fractal outside of math? And anyone here want to speak to what a fractal is outside of math? What you want to recognize is that we use these in terms of systems. A fractal, what it means in math is how you apply it to life.
I'm not a biologist.
Excuse me, it's a reiteration of something that repeats itself and recreates itself over and over again. And that is done not just in math, but a mathematical equation explains how that iteration happens. And I don't know if that response is clear. Judith, you actually wanted to say something, and then Maria Suarez has her hand up.
The biologists are able to answer this better, but a fractal is an example that everything is included in everything else. So if you look at the pattern of a leaf, or you look at patterns in nature, and you'll see, for example, in seashells that there will be a big pattern, and then there will be smaller ones, and they're all the same. They're different sizes. Perhaps somebody could find a picture of one and post it so that you get a visual representation of it.
I think also another example is the Russian nesting dolls. That's a fractal. Okay, that's a fractal that isn't mathematical. So Jen and then Maria.
A cauliflower. You know, you can see the cauliflower is one big head that looks kind of like a flower, and inside they're all little made of the same shape, all little pieces. That's what is an example.
Maria.
So I will not go into math because I'm terrible in math, but the one who talked about the fractals in that meeting was the African woman who appeared planting a seed, and she made a presentation that I have asked her to send to us. And sadly enough, I can't remember her name. I'm very tired, but I will find it for you also, because she made an amazing presentation about fractals, and it is included in the declaration as one of the laws of nature. And it was fantastic because fractals come from the African ancestral tradition, geometrically, mathematical, and in terms of the cosmovision of the universe. What a fractal is, and she said it, or Vandana, I don't remember, I didn't say it. The patterns of the universe is to reproduce itself fully. It keeps reproducing itself. That's the pattern of the universe. And that's why I talk that it's associated, that the gift economy is a pattern of the universe. It keeps reproducing itself. And it is self-organized. Life is self-organized. So it reproduces itself. And yes, the examples that Genevieve is giving is a very good one, because the cauliflower reproduces itself by continuing growing in the same pattern. And that's how the universe works, by reproducing itself fully. There's no half cauliflower in a cauliflower. It's all little cauliflowers that are the same, the trees, the leaves in a tree, and so on. And so that's what a fractal is, and it's self-organized, and it's the pattern of the universe to reproduce itself fully. And it has nothing to do with our mechanistic creation of things to make them try to make them alive. You know, it's not artificial intelligence. Computers are like each other because they are machines that they make to imitate each other, but they are not a self-organized, fully reproduction of the universe. I don't know if that clarifies, but it's a wonderful. It's a
Thank you,
wonderful
Maria.
thing to look at.
Thank you, Maria. Okay, I'm going to go back to Liliana. Do you have another question for us?
Yes, I have
Liliana?
a question from Bob Reckhow. And he asked, is there any advice to the panel? Is there any advice for men who want to play a positive role?
Okay, I'm going to say do it. And that's my response. And Jen?
Okay, I think we everybody had a mother. You can't survive unless somebody took care of you. It could have been a man, but generally it is a woman. Anyway, or it could be somebody else in the family, a sister or brother. Somebody has to take care of the baby, or several people do. And it's that unilateral giving model that is what I talk about as the basis of the gift economy. And so men receive that unilateral giving model also. And babies and mothers reflect each other. They're mirror neurons, reflect each other, and they understand what each other is doing through the giving and the receiving. And they have these kinds of dialogues and so on. So boys get that model just as much as girls do. Then at a certain point, when gender comes in and they begin to realize they're not like this mother who is their model, they have to search for another model, and they often get this patriarchal model instead. So I think that what men can do is return to their gift-giving model and interpret the world in that direction and reclaim their gift childhood human being, let's say.
Thanks, Jen. Maria has her hand up.
Very short for Bob and also for Esteban that I know is listening to us. I don't know any other, but follow the women, follow your mothers. You learn a lot from your mothers because you were raised the same way. And we had in the ashram meeting about mythology and women, we had a guy who spoke, and his main message was, I am who I am today because I was raised by grandmothers, by mothers, and by women who I learned from. And do that, and it's going to be a lot easier than trying to counteract everything that they gave you, because you have to be a male, and that's decolonizing patriarchy, which is decolonizing life.
Thanks, Maria. I just want to make a point of the gentleman that Maria was speaking about is a man who was raised in a matriarchal culture. So this was a culture where men were raised matriarchally, which most men in Western society are not. I would like to say advice for men who want to play a positive role is echoing something that Jen often says. Men, in the way that patriarchy is now, have the floor. And the best thing that you can do for a woman is to give her the floor. So if you're a man and you use your power to align with the voices of women, where men are often not allowing women to speak and be heard, you give over to the woman who could actually create that change if you can't do it yourself. If you can do it yourself, you need to speak for something like this, the manifesto, and have the courage to be able to speak directly to all the pieces that are in here in places that might make other men uncomfortable. That's how you affect a positive role in what's happening right now. Use your power for good. Yes, Jen.
And challenge patriarchy.
Yes, exactly. Okay.
You must
Angela.
believe,
What?
there is a movement which is called New Masculinities. New Masculinities, nuevas masculinidades. There's a world movement that has to do with a new man.
Okay. Karina, do you have any input that you want to have to that question?
No, I can't think of anything else to say. There's been so much said and done here. It's just amazing.
Great.
I'm just
Wonderful.
digesting it and enjoying it.
Okay, good. I think we might have time for one other question. Judith, do you have one, or do you have a short question for us, perhaps?
Yeah, following up on a previous question, just to follow up with the difference between reciprocity and exchange.
Okay. That reciprocity is a good word to actually bring up. And Jen, would you like to just clarify some of that, your understanding and your position from the maternal gift economy? Because I think it's an important point.
Yeah, it's can be a sort of difficult distinction. Reciprocity, I believe, is like turn taking. You don't have to do it as you do in exchange, but you do it in taking turns. You follow the unilateral model. Also, there's a question of, do you have abundance in your society? If you do, giving is easy. And you can give it forward. You can also give things forward. You don't have to give them back to the same person that gave it to you. Gifts can circulate. They can circulate also in a society that doesn't have abundance, but it really changes the structure of the thing when you do have abundance, because when you give something away, you're not really depriving yourself. You're not really losing anything. You're giving it forward. And when it becomes generalized, that's when you have a community that can live in harmony without any need to take things from the other people. You can count on other people for satisfying each other's needs, all of them. And that, I believe, is a society of reciprocity. When there's somewhat less abundance, then the turn-taking becomes particularly important, but it's still not exactly exchange. What's the problem with exchange is that you only give something if somebody else gives you that thing back. And it really is usually immediate. And we also have it quantified, and it's now it's done through money. And so that exchange with money is kind of a mechanism that alters our brains and takes us away from the gift economy and puts us in another mode, the exchange mode, where gifting is no longer important. It's not something that we can live on, because we have to have exchange. We even have to have exchange in order to be able to give to our children, for example. So the two are in opposition, even though there are some parts of reciprocity and giving that are closer together.
Thank you, Jen. Angela M., you have your hand up.
Just one comment about that. I think these are really good questions about exchange and gift and so on, but one of the major difficulties is actually seeing giving, because like reciprocity is a word that people often use when they mean giving or sharing. And exchange, people, like you say, we say exchange ideas. exchange is the word, the dominant word, which is used for giving as well as for our common social interaction. People presume that human relationships are exchange relationships, and they don't, because we haven't articulated what giving is as the basic human relation. People use that word very broadly, and that's one of the ways that gifts is just invisibilized. So that's a big one for me.
That's a good point, Angela. I think it's a really, really good point, because you can see in relationship counseling that they're wanting to negotiate. It's like a business transaction in their relationship. So it gets very confusing.
Yeah.
I want to have, I just want to make note of the time. So before we actually close, and I close this out, I want to just check in with each of you, Maria and Angela and Karina and Angela Miles and Jen, if there are closing words that you'd like to have about the manifesto. I mean, there's a rallying cry here for us. Jen has really emphasize the fact that we are in dire straits and we need this manifesto. We need to understand it. We need to live it. So I want to give each of you an opportunity to have some closing words if you'd like, and you're not required to. But we can leave these, those who are here live with us and those who will be viewing our recording, some last words. So Karina, yes, please.
Very simple. Read it. Read it in detail and circulate it.
Wonderful. And yes, if you speak another language, please translate it so that it's available for more people. Maria Suarez, do you have something that you'd like to say?
Very small. Also use your second brain.
And tell everyone what the second brain is. They may not know.
So I brought from India the book by Vandana, her latest book, which is called Terra Viva. And it's amazing. It has a last chapter that is about the second brain, which is the gut. And it blew my mind. And I translated the whole chapter and posted it in my blog. And I said, if I go to jail for translating and publishing this book without any permission, but I asked Vandana, but without any permission, I will gladly go to jail because it is so amazing. The second brain, I had no clue because of my ignorance, but it's an amazing book, Terra Viva. Thank you.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much. Angela D.
I think the manifesto should be our guide. It could be our guide, but it is our guide because it includes many things. But I think in a way we should discuss it and put it into a shorter frame that we could use it as a guide toward the future. It has everything. It has a bit of the gift economy. What I think we got to, those who teach should actually start bringing the both the manifesto, the gift economy, and biodiversity into their teachings. And in children, I think we have the best book, which is For Love and for Money. And that is the way that we have to create new societies from the age of 4. Children should be reading For Love and for Money, which is Jen's book.
Thank you so much, Angela. And for those of you who are not aware, that book is available free on the website gift-economy.com. Is that right, Jen?
It's translated into Spanish, and if they want to get in touch with me, I can give them a copy.
Okay, Diane put the website online, and most of Jen's books are available there. Jen, yes, you have your hand up.
I do, yes. That the website is under construction, so wait a couple of weeks before you go get the book. And the book is not called I can't remember what you called it, Love and Money. It's called Free and not free. You look at the title on one side and it's standing up straight. It says free.
Yes.
If you then you turn it over, and on the other side it says not free, and it has two stories of what would happen if everything were free and if everything were not free. And the animals are the ones that tell us about it.
Okay, and let's have Angela Miles say.
Just one thing. The thing is that the way we translate into Spanish was for amor y por dinero. Por amor y por dinero. That is why I translated for love and for money.
I know.
Because we put it into Spanish. When we're not free and not free, we just put it por amor and por dinero. So that is the way it came out translated.
We did that in Italian too, but anyway. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Angela M., would you like to have some closing words?
Yeah, I think the important thing or what consumes me is how can feminists, how can the body, how can we be heard? Not just how can we get the manifesto around, but how can we get a platform? How can we get attention? How can we be recognized as significant? And I think Maria talked about the network of networks. I think it's it's fantastic. And I think there are many, many others like Fisher women's groups and farm women's groups and all kind of women's groups that would respond to a gathering and statements and a presence of the gift and of diverse women for diversity. I think so. To me is politically, how do we make the links of the networks and the places where women are acting to be able to pull together something large enough with some government, progressive government involvement, that we could try to shift the discourse, really reveal how crazy the whole framework for all of our discussions right now and all the presumptions on which policy is based, show that it's absolutely destructive. It's what got us here in the first place. So it's like the manifesto is great and to circulate it, but how do we get the political relationships, the spiritual relationships, the solidarities, which to me is what is the kind of fractal thing. The solidarities are when things flow among people who are doing something together from very different locations. So that's my question.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. Thanks, Angela.
Just one moment.
Thanks, Angela. Yes, Angela Dolmetsch.
But for all of us, although all those of us who have in some way access to universities, we should try to see where they would be able to have a study of women studies, and women studies should have shouldn't just be women studies that you wanted, that we should try to build a course on women studies which is related to the gift, which is related to matriarchal gift, which is related to ecofeminism, and that sort of course should be. I think, for instance, in Colombia now with a progressive government, we could make it mandatory for all universities.
Thanks, Angela Dolmetsch. Okay, Jen, would you like to have some closing last words before I close out our session?
No.
I'm laughing because early on we're recognizing that this is number 50, so our salon's number 50, and earlier when we all came on board, we were just remarking that we're very pleased. And so now I would like to say that in this spirit of organizing, our last salon, I'm going to put the link in. If you haven't watched it, it's about women's conferences and women's organizing and organizing women. And I want you to be able to access that and be inspired by the gift of organizing, that you now have a document that you can begin to create, to have conversations with other people. And as Angela Miles was inferring in this notion of fractals, that it has to start with you. Your relationship with yourself and the understanding of the material is how you will actually be able to create relationships with other people who you want to inspire and to begin to gather. And as we gather in groups in that way, then we come together and repeat the pattern of this new worldview. So it's a call to action for you all. And I see that, Maria, you have your hand up. Do you want to say one quick thing before I close this out?
Well, I'm going to take Jen's place, if you let me, because she doesn't want to give a closing meaning. I just want to share, because some people are asking me in the chat, what was the story that Vandana told me about Shiva? And I would like to end with that if you give me 2 minutes.
Okay, 2 minutes, because we're already
2
over.
minutes.
Okay.
Oh, then, okay, I'll write it down and send it.
No, that's okay. If you want to say it, say it.
So
and you can
tell me when the 2 minutes are up. Letty, tell me when the 2 minutes are up.
Okay.
So Vandana, the story that she told me, the foundational story of the relationship between the ocean and the land that Vandana told me is that once upon a time, very, very, very many years ago, many centuries ago, there was famine and drought in India. And so the king went up to the mountain of the Himalayas where we were in the farm and asked Shiva to please come down, to share her power, to use her power to come down with her waters, because otherwise people were going to die. And so Shiva says, I cannot use all of my power at once because there will be inundations. I can remember the word she used. There will be inundations. I have so much power. So then Shiva decided to put the dreadlocks down on the Himalayas, and that's where the Ganges River and the waters were born, and that's how the oceans were created. And I think it's a wonderful story. Both Vandana said it herself. Shiva finally recognized her sense of power and how she had to use it well for the good. Thank you.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you so much for that. All right, everyone. I want to thank you for staying with us to the end. I know you have plenty of things to do. I have a few things that I just want to say, which is thank you to the speakers. We already did thank Vandana Shiva, but I want to thank Angela Dolmetsch, Angela Miles, Karina Kylo, Maria Suarez, and Genevieve Vaughan for all of your contributions, not only to this, but to our network. And I want to thank our tech support, Diane, who's ever present and pings me even on my phone when we need to get it moving. And I really appreciate that. Liliana and Judith, for your eyes and ears and the listening that you do, bringing questions and comments that are important to us so that our speakers can respond. On the behalf of the International Feminists for the Gift Economy Network, really, I just want to thank each of you who are viewing this today with us, and those of you who are taking the time out of whatever day it is that you're viewing our recording. If you'd like to be notified of our upcoming salons and events, please do sign up for our notification mailing list, which you can find at our website, maternalgifteconomymovement.org. This video is going to be up at our maternalgifteconomymovement.org when we have it rendered and available. Now for the news. We are taking the month of August off. We are very excited to be able to have a vacation. And of course, during that time, we have 50 salons plus 3 recordings of our mini conferences and our special book events that you can watch if you miss us during that time and share with your friends and have fabulous discussions. So we're going to see you back here in September. With our first event that we'll have is a special book presentation with Darsha Navarez on September the 9th and Gay Bradshaw. It will feature their new book, The Evolved Nest, Nature's Way of Raising Children and Creating Connected Communities. And I will add that Gay Bradshaw actually has an animal sanctuary. So we're not just talking about humans, we're talking about the whole aspect and realms of everything that they will be talking about in their book. So I'm very excited about that. Okay, honestly, the other thing that I'm excited about is that we will come back with our first salon on September the 16th, which is going to feature our very own Genevieve Vaughan. And I don't know if you've noticed, but this year Jen has actually taken the floor, and we've had the opportunity to listen to her exclusively in the development of her theory and her thoughts around the maternal gift economy. So I'm very excited for that. So Jen will be back September the 16th for our 51st salon. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your summer. And we're going to see you in September. So friends, please be safe. Have lots of fun. Be well, be kind to one another, eat good food, and work for peace, everyone. We'll see you in September. Take good care. Bye for now.
Bye, everybody.